you. What a great attendance. Thanks everyone for coming. I'm Justin McGuigan. I am a managed service specialist at Workflow Solutions out in Livingston. Now I just want to start by saying I'm no means an AI expert, just to make everyone feel a bit more comfortable. But the purpose of this is to try and understand AI, adopt AI-powered automation, while maintaining control, security and culture alignment in businesses. So obviously we've got Simon here from UiPath and Matthew from Pax 8. We're doing a nice, easy fireside chat today. Hopefully going to get everyone involved, asking questions throughout it, and we're going to have a proper Q&A at the end. I think the best thing to do is just crack on with it and just sort of get down to it. And I think one of the main questions that we're getting asked is, how is AI reshaping how organisations operate, and what does this shift mean for the workforce?
Okay, yeah, okay. Easy first question. So I'll start off is, how is it shaping? And we have to be honest and be realistic at the moment. There's been lots of hype about Agentic AI, and I normally start off with PowerPoint slides, and I show the headlines from 6 months ago, and it says Agentic AI is going to take over the world, solve world peace and hunger. It just, probably Trump's going to try and get there first, or tell us anyway. But you now look at the headlines that are out there today, and it's like there's no ROI in AI. AI is wasting a lot of time. We're not seeing the benefits. They're the headlines that are coming out today. So we've got to have a bit of reality check where we are today with AI and Agentic AI. Is it being deployed by the thousands and by the masses? No, I don't think it is at the moment. So people are still learning and understanding how AI will impact the workforce. So let's be real. We don't know exactly how it is. We're all in the same boat. I've got lots of customers that are playing with AI. We're doing proof of concepts. We're doing proof of values. We're trying still to work out how it's going to fit in. And if anybody has got the answer and they know how it's going to fit in, they can certainly tell me. But I think this is where the vendors and our customers, we're working together to try and work that out. And we have to have a look at the complete workflow of AI, where it starts, where it finishes, and where it would kind of fit in. So I think we're all working out where it fits in still at the moment.
Exactly. Though, one of the things that a question that keeps coming up is many companies focus on AI tools before they've actually defined why they're adopting them.
Well, I'll jump in here. I think part of the shift of how companies are looking at AI is previously they'd see a problem within their business, they'd go out to market, find a solution that fixes that problem, implement it, thank you very much, off you pop, until that solution no longer works, and then they have to find another solution. Whereas Agentic AI is slightly different because it's so customizable to a specific problem that you've got, which it won't necessarily fix straight away. It means that you've got to do a lot more discovery with your IT provider or whoever you're working with to solve said problem, and then be prepared for, on first rollout and first kind of pilot, for it not to work quite as you intended. But then you get iterative improvement over time, and that also allows you to have a look at, whilst you're doing this discovery, okay, not only what's the problem we're trying to solve, but potentially what are our KPIs and outcomes that we want from it, so that once you have actually deployed it, you do have some trackable figures against the return on investment in spending that time up front in the discovery before deployment.
I think it's a key point in kind of the KPIs, the return of investment. And I think this is where everybody's kind of gone down a bit of a rabbit hole, because our managers have told us we all have to deploy AI. What's our Agentic AI solution? Where are we going? You need to do something. So the pressure came down from top, and we all started playing with AI, trying to make it fit into certain environments to get a tick in the box. And now we've got to work out whether that's saving any money or not, and that's more of a challenge. So we have to take a bit of a step back, have a look at where we actually look at Agentic AI. What are the KPIs? This is kind of key. Can we measure KPIs? Because some of them, it may be really hard to actually measure what the KPI is, maybe on one agent. This is where you have to look at the entire workflow from start to finish, because the ROI might be there on the entire workflow, but you only may be looking at a particular agent that do one part of that workflow, and therefore actually measuring the ROI on that is almost impossible. Okay, so you sometimes have to take a step back and look at the end-to-end workflow for the ROI, because it may not just be there on that one agent.
But I think, Justin, one of the really key things to remember during this discovery and scoping period as well is that actually AI is just a tool. The people in your business are the most important asset that you've got, and AI is just a tool for them to use to improve their productivity and their creativity. So you've got to approach it with a people first mentality, with tech being an enabler. So your people are the artists, AI is simply a paintbrush to allow them to achieve what they can.
It's good. I'm going to jump in here.
Yeah,
You're
no,
going to
no.
get a word in against it.
Yeah, I'll just sit back.
So I think the AI as a tool is 100% correct. And I was last here at this conference 7 years ago. UiPath was a tiny company, and we were selling robotic process automation. And that was very much a tool that would just shift data from one place to another. A great tool, and it solved a lot of problems. AI is just helping in that automation workflow process by, if you think about robotic process automation, it would say, get this data, do something with it, and shift it and put it there. Very deterministic in the workflow. Where AI is just giving us the ability to maybe be a bit more imaginative, think about what we need to do in that process, and maybe then get the robot excuse me, to do something afterwards. So it is exactly right. It's just another tool in that workflow.
That's me.
Yeah.
Perfect. So just moving on. So one of the questions that comes up is, where should organisations start when building an automation or AI strategy? And sort of on the back of that, it's like, how can small and medium businesses start adopting automation within the Microsoft ecosystem without huge budgets or technical teams?
Yeah,
You go
I'm happy
first
to
this
go
time,
for
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, it's speak to your employees. So do individual interviews with different departments, find out what problems that they're facing, find out what's stopping them achieving and having as good and the most productive output that they can possibly have, and collate those ideas off the back of the interview into a list of things that could potentially be automated, and then go out to the wider team and survey them and check, we've had this feedback, can we just sense check it that it's actually accurate and relevant? And that provides a really good foundation to then go on and start exploring how to automate those processes, which is probably a good topic for you to pick up, Simon.
Yeah, it's certainly. So I'm going to pick up on the employees bit. I always find it's first find somebody that wants to automate something. Okay, because you have a lot of challenges internally where you're trying to automate something. I was chatting to a customer downstairs earlier, and they said, "Oh, we're just putting in this automated system, and the guy that used to do it before is being a bit of a pain in the what's it." Yeah, funny that, because he's probably going to lose his job if they do implement it. So you've got to find people that actually want to implement these things, because then if they do it and they're really successful and they look really good, then other people will go, "Oh, perhaps I should go and look at that." So actually finding somebody that wants to is a really good place to start. And then finding out what to automate. And there are hundreds and hundreds of processes. Pick something simple, something that is repetitive, that's happening a lot, that will have a big impact. If you can find that one process that's got a huge impact on whether it's people, time, accuracy, whatever it is, whether it's expenses checking and stuff, read what other people are doing. Finding something that's been done before, that people who you've seen have been successful and they've done an agent and it's done expenses checking. It's doing triage on IT support cases. You know, I've got police Scotland, and you've got all the police agencies down south. They're all looking at the triage of all the cases that are coming in, because they've got officers sat there, police officers checking cases, checking number plates, things that can be agentified very easily. So yeah, have a look at what other people are doing, and do you have that process, and can you replicate it? Does somebody want to? That's always key.
Yeah, just to pick up on that, because I know you mentioned someone being nervous effectively by, if a process is automated, them losing their job. I think it's really important to approach this with your employees from a position of, this is here to help you, not we're looking to replace you. The fact of the matter is that Microsoft have done loads of studies recently, and there's been some really key findings, one of which is that today we are in 4 times more Teams meetings every day than we were in February 2020, which is a crazy statistic. And Microsoft do a massive study called the Modern Work Trend Index study, where they survey 32,000 workers every year. And what came out of it this year was that 80% of the people surveyed felt that they didn't have enough time to complete the work that they had allocated. and that they were feeling close to burnt out or overworked. But yet the managers that were surveyed, 53% of those said their teams aren't being productive enough. So you've got 80% of teams feeling burnt out or close to it, and 53% of managers saying you're not doing enough. So it's how do you bridge that gap so that everybody's happy, and helping employees understand that if you can automate some pieces of their work and free up more of their time, it's going to be a good thing, not a bad thing.
You know, interest from my point of view when I'm out speaking to customers, so I work in sales, that's my job. I go out and try and teach people about various processes and things we can do, and this is also a learning curve for me as well. But one thing that I ask everyone is, what are you trying to achieve? And partly what people say is they want to start small and sort of build it out from there. So is there any examples of smaller AI processes that businesses can put in place to really start that ball rolling?
I can give you one that I've been dabbling with myself, just playing around in Copilot Studio trying to create an agent. And it was quite simply an agent that connects to my emails. I can ask it to organise my email inbox so that when I return from a morning of meetings all day, it goes through and just categorises the different emails based on whether they contain an action, whether it's just an FYI email, or whether there's like an app mention in it, just so that when I come back I can very quickly look at blocks of colour of which emails to pick up first and worry about the rest later. And just simple things like that can be a really good starting point to start exploring.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. I just delete them all. I think the typical one is kind of procurement, invoice processing. I don't know how many people are using RPA today, but probably one of the easiest places to start with Agentic AI is where you're doing robotic process automation today, but you're getting lots of exceptions that the robot can't handle it because it doesn't fit inside the rules. That's where, because you're just adding another tool to help the robot, essentially. You're throwing out the exception. It would normally go to a human being and they would sort out the exception. One I always use, for example, you send out an order for a bicycle, you get the bike, you get the invoice back, and it says bike instead of bicycle. So the robot can't kind of align those two things together. So you can send that out to an agent, and the agent goes, bicycle's the same as bike, you idiot. Carry on. Okay, but the robot doesn't know it because it said bicycle on the order and it came back with bike. Okay, so that is probably the simplest form, because you actually look at, if you've got RPA, how many people have got RPA today?
What is RPA?
Robotic process automation. Okay, so it's basically shifting data from one place to another. It's a great place to start on your automation journey, by the way, and it is probably the best place to start, to be honest. And then you just add AI into that automation level as you kind of go along. So yeah, that is probably the best place. But if you're looking at, what is AI there to do? It's there to automate. So robotic process automation is probably a good place to start. And then you add the AI part into it just to manage those exceptions. Because what you look at is when you use RPA, you automate a process, it's great. And you save 20-30% of the cost. All the cost is then in your exceptions. Okay, you've got everything's thrown through the happy path, everything's hunky-dory, but then 20-30% of the processes go through as an exception, but that's 80% of the cost. So if you can use Agentic AI to rule out those exceptions, then that is where your cost savings really are.
Cool. Just before we move on, he's regretting inviting me to this panel.
Not at all.
If you want a completely fresh starting block, granted, I'm literally a Microsoft ambassador, so I've got to say this. Microsoft have an excellent adoption hub. So just Google adoption hub from Microsoft, and within that is a scenario library where they break down by each department, so like finance, marketing, sales, execs, all sorts, with ideas for each of those different roles and subsets, and it's a really good place to go for inspiration to start exploring more.
Cool. Well, one of the things I want to talk to you about actually is about overcoming adoption barriers. Now this actually leads quite nicely with myself. So I'm a managed service specialist at Workflow. I go out and speak to customers, I sell IT support, managed print, telecoms. But I also have another business, which is my own business, which is involved in selling technology into care homes and nurseries based around dementia, sensory care, etc. And it's just myself that works. And one of the things I haven't done myself is implement AI into my business, because just in the back of my head, it's just me, sales are fine, I'm not big enough to do it yet. So at what point in the business the business growth period is a good time to start implementing AI into businesses?
Not that I'm biased, like yesterday. So again, with more facts, figures and data, Microsoft did a study last month, so this is hot off the press, back end of last month they released this. 71% of people are already using AI at work, whether that be authorised or unauthorised through tool sets. And 51% of those continue to do so every week. So 1 in 3 people in the workplace are already using AI, whether it's sanctioned or not. So the best thing that you can do is, rather than having unregulated use of it within the business, which is a bit like driving without a seatbelt, because there may be data leaking out that you don't know about, and it might be a small bump, or it might be a full-on 3-car pileup with the data that they're leaking, depending on what sort of data your business deals with. So you've very much got to control the controllables as point 1, but then point 2, educate your staff and give them guidelines. Where we are at with AI at the minute is a little bit like how it was in the kind of the late 80s when Excel was first introduced. So imagine you're an accountant in the late 80s, you're doing everything in a ledger book, writing everything down by hand, and Excel comes along, you look at it, people start adopting, you think, oh crikey, this isn't good, this is going to take my job. And actually those accountants that picked it up initially educated them on how to use it, how to make themselves literate with the program, even if it was just doing basic add this cell to this cell formulas, started to get an advantage. And then fast forward to today, you can't imagine an accountant that doesn't know how to use Excel extensively. And we're in the same early period with AI, where the best thing that people can do and the best thing you can do for your employees is help them get AI literate as quickly as possible, and have that policy of sharing best practice and success, most importantly internally, which will really help drive adoption, because quite often it's lack of understanding and education which is the reason people are a bit apprehensive about using AI.
Yeah, one of the things that we're coming on is when speaking to businesses, there seems to be a lot of resistance to change, a fear of job losses. In my experience speaking to people, it's more to help free up people's time rather than people being more feared about their jobs.
Yeah, I just want to jump on a quick point there about education of AI. And I was sat at home one evening, I have a 14-year-old son, and I made him come down and do his homework, and his homework was Maths Watch, which is a thing, some people might have children, they do it. They do their maths homework on the computer. They get formulas, they sit there, do the maths. And I was watching TV and it just like, you do your homework, get on with it in the corner of the room. And I turned around and he had his phone in front of the screen. And he was taking photos of the computer screen. And he was using ChatGPT, the little bugger, right? He was taking a picture of the maths question, going solve this, and ChatGPT was solving it for him, and he was just typing in the number. That's my 14-year-old son is using AI, okay? So, and I've seen companies start we're kind of doing this reverse mentoring stuff, because this is a generational thing. He's using it, happy, yeah? It's every day, it's normal for him. Okay, I'm beginning to use it, and I use it a lot more now. But we do a reverse mentoring where we're getting the younger generational people that are really kind of born and bred, teaching us slightly older generational people how they're using it and what they're using it for. And that's working quite a treat as well, because it's not the formal kind of teaching and sitting there on an online course flicking, just get me to the quiz and I'll bodge the answers type thing that we try and implement at work. So I think that's a great way, because it is going to be a generational thing. If they're doing that at 14 years old, and he's shit, then we all need to wake up a little bit.
Yeah, I think just on that point, going back to kind of control the controllables, what you do have to be careful, and which is why it's good to implement a policy internally and get people talking about it, is the rise of the Facebook AI expert, as I like to call it, which is the person currently in your office that knows just a little bit more about AI than everyone else, but that is just enough to be dangerous in terms of giving people bad advice and what things they shouldn't be doing with it in the workplace, and wrong platforms that result in leaking your data. And a final point of just one really nice cultural thing that we do internally is we have a Monday stand-up every morning, and we share a prompt of the week, which is just something that someone has found that's worked for them, that's been really successful, and it just really helps getting everybody talk about it and sharing.
Just coming back to the question. on the barriers thing, and this is kind of one of my biggest frustrations from my side and also from customer side. Without a doubt, the biggest barrier is security. We've got to put our hands up and say, like, this is going to be our biggest barrier. The challenge that we usually have is the business will go off and they will try and do something. They haven't involved their InfoSec team from the beginning, and they get right to the end. They go, right, we're going to do this, and they go, oh God, no, you're not. Yeah, not a chance. We are not letting you do that. And so what I'm doing, I'm working with my sales teams and my technical engineers. The first question, as soon as they engage on something, are we engaged with the InfoSec team, with the customer? If they say no, I'm not doing it, okay? Because I'm not going to waste my team's resources, their time on doing something that may not go anywhere. I've never had a time when we haven't got through all the security barriers and the hurdles and answered the 1,001 questions that we have to answer. But we have to do it, and the sooner we start those conversations with the customer, the better things go, and it's a lot smoother, and we get things done quicker. So it is, I wouldn't say it's a barrier, it's a thing that people kind of, it's that one thing you don't really want to do. You know you have to do it, but I'm just going to do it last. But yeah, if we kind of start that process off a lot sooner, then it does make life a lot easier.
It's a bit like your son with the maths homework. Oh, I didn't have to.
Yeah, but he doesn't really do it, does he? Let's be honest.
Good on him. Yeah, no, it's interesting. When speaking to people about different products, one of the obstacles that we've got is obviously their initial investment and what the return on investment is going to be. You know, it's obviously hard to measure, but how are we?
It's the thing that we spend most of our time on now, is ROI. So the MIT study, you keep quoting studies, so I'm going to have to quote one as well now. 95% of all AI projects have no ROI. That's a really scary number, okay? So everyone's got to take a step back and I kind of talk about it. But we've got to look at the end-to-end process. A process inside an organisation, it could involve humans, robots, and AI agents. Yeah, there's 3 things in there. So we've got to work out the cost of all of those as well. So you've got a process that could be handed off between all these different things. And we're now seeing environments where they've got multi-agents, so not one agent. There could be thousands of agents in this process. Yeah, one could be checking addresses versus fraud or whatever else. But there could be all of these agents in this one process. How do I measure my ROI? How do I even know how much it's costing me? Okay, I think we all remember the days when things got moved to the cloud and everyone went, right, we're going to shove everything in the cloud. And everyone shoved everything in the cloud and they put their applications in, they started using their applications and they had and they're getting all these bills from Amazon going, woo, look how much money we've made. Because no one knew how much this application was going to cost when they put it in the cloud, because we didn't really know. Okay, and then we got the bills and we found out pretty quick. So the same sort of thing could happen with these workflows, and this is my biggest concern, is we put these workflows and we're calling all these LLMs and everywhere here, there and whatever else, and then we're getting all these bills for these calls for LLMs and we go, this is expensive, okay? But we need to see it across the whole workflow. So this is where you're seeing the concept of orchestration really being a big push in agentic AI. So you need this orchestration layer that includes the manages the handoffs between the agents, the robots, and the human beings, all in one, so you can see the workflow from start to finish, and then you can also see the costs of that workflow in there as well. Once you see the cost, you can also then measure what your actual ROI is, because there is this worry, I've seen people design workflows with agents, and the agent was costing a fortune in calls. A slight redesign of how that agent worked reduced the cost of the calls by something like tenfold, just because of the way they designed it. Now, unless you're monitoring and seeing what that agent's costing you, then you can't work out whether you can reduce the cost or whether you need to. So this is where you'll see it around, it be the thing that's coming out. Everyone's talking about agent orchestration because they're worried that we're going to have thousands of these agents. And you did, I think it was the ServiceNow CEO said he'd laid off 6,000 of his contact center people and he's replaced them all with agents. So that would have been a lot of agents, but he's got to work out how much that's costing him at some point as well. So yeah, I think the kind of end-to-end workflow, not just the AI bit, but the whole lot needs to be monetized and see how much it's being costing.
To be honest, I've forgotten the question.
It's all about ROI.
So did I.
See, I focus on ROI quite a lot because if there is no ROI, I've got no deal. So it's a massive point that we really have to look into.
Now, going back to kind of what we were saying before, which I think fits in with this, is that because AI and agentic AI is just a tool within the business, there isn't another tool or solution or piece of software within your business that you would roll out and then just hope it works and not do any sort of internal development and training and monitoring and tracking. But for some reason, there's this impression with AI that you can just do that and it'll get on with it. And it's not the case. It's the same as any other piece of software or tool set in your business, that the more you A, upskill people initially, and then B, continue that training, the better results you'll get from it.
Yeah, and we touched on sort of data security very briefly there, which obviously falls under governance and the ethics of AI. So how can businesses innovate with AI while maintaining control, compliance and security?
There's a very simple answer to this, and again, not biased, or use the Microsoft ecosystem. No, but there's a really serious reason I'm saying that, and it's because Microsoft have put in place a responsible AI framework, which they really strictly adhere to. And a core part of that strategy is protecting business data. Because I don't know how many of you have used, let's do show of hands, how many have used one of the free AI tools out there in the marketplace, like ChatGPT or something like that? So most of you, pretty much, which is, funnily enough, pretty normal for a tech conference. Every time you enter a prompt into ChatGPT, and it goes off into the small language model and breaks it down into tokens and then goes to the web and gets your answer. The answer that comes back and how you then respond with that answer goes back into the large language model to train it, which is fine if you're just asking it for a question of create this picture of me surrounded by cats or something. It doesn't really matter, does it? But if you're asking it to analyze your quarterly financial data and give you insights, it's a big problem, because once that data goes into that large language model, it's gone and there's no way to recover it, and it's used for training. And there's been big newsworthy instances of this, like Samsung in 2023, some of their software engineers were using the free version to debug proprietary source code for their semiconductor chips. And they found out, and it was a massive breach, and they did further this investigation. In the space of a month, there'd been 3 sack-worthy breaches of confidential information into the free version of ChatGPT. So what Microsoft have done is they've guaranteed that your data will be protected both at rest and when it's moving between the different steps. Microsoft don't have eyes on it in the back end, so they can never see your data, so someone at Microsoft can't just look in and see it. And it will never be used to train the large language models, so it's always protected. Your data never leaves your environment. So that's the reason that I say Microsoft. And they also have Copilot Chat, which is completely free. So if you can encourage your employees to start using that rather than the free versions of, say, ChatGPT, it's a much better option, because your data will be protected, and then they can start to play around with it and innovate it, and you can be okay with it knowing that your business data is secure.
I think auditability also on this workflow. So when we look at, and I talk about the orchestration layer, this has to include the ability to audit and go through what's gone on in a process. So you can build your guardrails, you've got to be able to build your auditability all into that orchestration layer, and also build the guardrails into, kind of code them into your agents as well. We all know things sometimes go wrong. So you want to know where they've gone wrong, how they've gone wrong, so that you can learn from those things. So having that orchestration layer is fundamental to being able to see the start and the finish of that process. And then that also gives confidence to people. If you can see what's going on inside a process and you can monitor that process, you can see where the exceptions are, you can see exactly where everything is, that generally just gives people a lot more confidence in the process that's going on.
Yeah, do you both feel that building transparency when implementing AI in whatever sense, employees should be able to understand what it's there and why?
100%. Yeah, totally. And I think the more people understand, the more people kind of buy into it, that's for sure. It's just a mentality thing. If I don't understand anything, I totally reject it straight off. Probably 100% of the arguments between my wife and I. But if people can see what's going on and they can feel involved in it, they're definitely going to be more bought into it for sure.
Yeah, cool. I'm conscious of time. We've also got 10 minutes to go, but I wouldn't want to not talk about the future of AI. So what does the rise of AI co-pilots and agentic AI mean for the future of work? I know it's very open, but
yeah. So Microsoft have spoken about what they've called the frontier firm, which is the firm of the future, which is one where rather than slotting AI into their current processes and operations, they're going to start to build their operations and processes around AI to get the most from it. To the point where, so at the minute we may deploy an agent within a team, so we've got a team of people with one agent, but then in the future it's likely that one person will manage, potentially talking about the orchestration layer, a team of agents, and this will be the same for various different departments in the business, so that it's kind of an augmented situation where you've got human employees working directly and managing robotic agents to help them complete their work.
I'm going to pinch a tagline. So I was downstairs on the stand, there was a company opposite, and I can't remember what they were called, and I looked at their website to see what they did, and they had a perfect tagline on there, and it said, AI doesn't make good leaders, it makes great team members. And I thought that was really good. I quite like that. So you're still going to get the people leading and the AI kind of being this team member stuff. And we're seeing it in a lot of the consultancy firms, I think, are an interesting model to look at. They're kind of struggling to get their grips around because AI is eating a lot of their lunch, so they're working out how to adapt it. Where the future goes, and every 4 weeks it changes. There's a different vendor on the block, and I normally, if I do slides, I have one slide it's called the AI landscape of 2024. I haven't updated it this year because they just can't keep up anymore, because there's like 3,000 companies on this thing. And every week a new one comes on that claims to be better and probably is for 4 or 5 weeks, and another one. So we've got to have interoperability around AI, because you may want to plug things in, vendors out, all the time. So this is where we've got, and keep going on about this orchestration layer, we've got to be able to manage this stuff so that we have the ability to rip out one agent, put in another, because we could end up with thousands of these agents. And we're seeing, obviously we're probably ahead of the curve in using agents in UiPath, because we can't make them, so it's a bit easier. So we're seeing like probably 10 to 15 different agents released every week at the moment internally, whether it's doing our expenses, whether it's doing this, that, or whatever it is. They just seem to come up with another one. And it is, you're getting a little bit worried. Oh my God, we've got so many agents now. What do we do? How are we managing this? How are we controlling this? So I think that's going to be the key to whether AI is successful inside an organization, and it's going to be around the control of the deployment of AI.
yeah, just a quick question for Simon actually. So where do you see the biggest untapped potential for AI and automation right now?
Is people not looking at the end-to-end process, they're looking at individual tasks within a process. So they're focusing on one part instead of it. And I'll give you a classic example. I was talking to a customer and they go, we're going to do this agent that's going to do employee contract modifications. They had a lot of employees, it was a government organisation. And they said, they fill in this form, we're going to then use document scanning, we're going to read this form in, use IDP, we're then going to get this data, we're then going to give it to an agent, the agent's going to work out what to do with it, and then it's going to make the changes to SAP. And I was like, that sounds great. So why are you starting off with a form that the employee's going to fill in? Okay? You've just ruined your ROI of this process by then putting an intelligent document processing solution that actually, if you digitize the form in the first place, you don't need. My sales guy wasn't so happy because we were selling the IDP platform as well. But I was like, well, they might actually buy the whole thing now because the ROI is so much better. So people just focusing, oh yeah, this agent's going to do this bit, oh, great. And they've forgotten about this bit up here. Okay, so it is looking at the end-to-end process and not just the one task that you're trying to do.
Yeah, so on that, so how is UiPath integrating co-pilots into daily workflows at the moment?
Well, we use co-pilots as the interface to AI really. We spend most of our time, actually, as a company, looking at the back-end processes. And well, we use Copilot. We can talk both two-way, so Copilot can tell robots what to do, and also robots can give Copilot information. And that's a lot about bringing the human into the loop. You know, if we've got this process, we've got to, there's always a point where usually a human has to look at it and go, yes or no. And then the AI can learn from that decision as well. So using Copilot as that interface is probably the key step, I think, at the moment.
Right, okay, interesting. Well, Matthew, in your experience, what small practical steps can businesses take to start building AI influence across teams?
So I'd say step number one, get your AI policy in place, so you've got those guardrails and your employees know how to behave. Out of interest, show of hands again, who already has an AI policy in place for their staff? Oh, good number of you.
That's pretty good, actually.
That's really good. I was doing an event a couple of weeks ago, in a room of 200, there was about 10, and I had a small heart attack.
Ask who follows it.
But yeah, and then beyond that is start that program of AI literacy and adoption using kind of some of the things that I've mentioned. So go on to the Microsoft Adoption Hub and start looking at the different scenarios in the different departments. They've also recently released a really great training program called the Great Copilot Journey, which is a 6-week program where it literally gives you one prompt a day to try out on various different things. Going from basic at the very start to more complex towards the end, and it's completely free to do. And then at the end of it, you get a Copilot Power User badge to stick on LinkedIn with pride or wherever you want to stick it.
I can't wait.
I think it's important. I'm conscious we've got 5 minutes of time left, so the floor's open if anyone wants to ask any questions. Make your time worthwhile.
If you put your hands up and then we'll pass you a roving mic.
I'll shout.
Trick question. Automation and AI are separate things.
Who said they are, or do I think they are?
I think they are.
I disagree.
and
Because I'm an automation company.
I think it was picking up on what you said about automation was the sort of the fixing of the interfaces that didn't exist between discrete systems and services, and then what you highlighted was that what we should be doing is redesigning whole workflow processes. But that's the old, if you've got the wrong software for the wrong job, then you need to do something about it. So, but automation is the Excel, the moving the data around. AI, picking up on what you said there about was handling the exceptions. So they are discrete transformation steps, automating gaps, saving humans time, and then AI is the intelligence bit. So I keep trying to separate them out, sorry.
Yes, it is interesting. So some of the challenges we have with customers where they have an AI team and an automation team, and they're two separate teams inside an organisation, we find that's more challenging. When they're the same team, and we're seeing a lot of customers bring those teams together, because ultimately what am I trying to achieve? What's my outcome of AI? Probably trying to automate something, okay? Whether it's a decision or inside a workflow, most of the time. So bringing those teams together is where we've seen the biggest success with deploying agentic AI inside our customers. So I understand where you're coming from, but ultimately I think a lot of what we're trying to achieve with AI is to automate stuff. It is just a tool that we're trying to use. So we do put it in the same bracket now, and that's by bringing it into the same bracket as a tool, as we kind of talked about earlier. That's where we're seeing probably the biggest benefits. But it's the biggest challenge when you've got the two separate inside an organisation. That causes a lot of conflict, because the automation team are probably using AI, and the AI team are going off and doing different things, and then you have a bit of a clash, and they don't know they don't talk to each other apparently. But when they bring them together, when organisations, and we are seeing a big shift now, they're bringing those two organisations together, we're really seeing the benefits.
Probably don't need this. My question is, what's your prediction for the next 10 years in growth in AI, and I've got to get a little plug. I work for ZOT, and we're based in Musselburgh, and we specialise in PCB manufacturing.
So I saw a report the other day that reckoned that I think it was Gartner said by 2028, 15% of all business processes will be handled by AI. And that's 3 years away. And given the rate of growth within AI, so I mean ChatGPT when it first came out went from 0 users to 100 million users in the space of 2 months, compared to the adoption of TikTok, which was 9 months, which seemingly came out of nowhere, and Spotify, which was 5 years. The rate of adoption of AI has been faster than anything else in history. So 10 years is frankly far too much time away to be able to predict anything when it comes to that scenario. But certainly I think it will be increasingly used more and more and more and more intricate ways as the intelligence progresses, because I think at the minute we're currently around a second year university level of intelligence and reasoning, and 10 years time it'll be way beyond PhD level of intelligence, so the stuff that we'll be able to do with it will be even more impressive than we can do today.
I'm not answering that one. 10 years. Hopefully I'll be retired and won't care. It'll be faster and cheaper. There we go. As rightly said, 10 years time is a million miles away. It's just going to be more intelligent. You know, some of the stuff that we're working on using AI to even read documents, the intelligence level of that is just stepping up. The different languages, the different supporting different things, it's just going to get wider and wider, I think. 10 years, if I knew I'd be investing in that company. Yeah.
It's fair to say it's going to explode.
It
already has.
Well,
Yeah,
I think it exploded in the press, but not actually in reality. I think the reality is the next 12 to 18 months, maybe 24. We are seeing the pilots are coming to an end. We've got through the security hurdles. Customers now ready to go big.
Yeah, the reason that Microsoft have released the free version of Copilot recently is because they've identified that they've effectively got another 12 months to win the AI race, as they're calling it. It's a bit like the old Betamax versus VHS race that happened that's going on with AI at the minute, and it's very much the case of whoever can get the market share the quickest is the one that's going to win, and then whichever one wins will really dictate where the future of it goes.
thank you.
Sorry, we're going to have to call it time here.
Can we have one more question?
Okay, one more time. Yeah, go for it.
Hi, thanks for the panel. Very interesting. I was gonna ask. We've seen companies or departments disappear with the appearance of AI in companies, and also some companies have rehired people as a result of, let's say, mistakes. So, in your experience, what would you say are the lessons to be learned from that? Maybe you said this already, and how could we avoid these situations from happening?
I'm going to pick on the CEO of ServiceNow because he laid off 6,000. He told everybody he laid off 6,000 people. I have no way did he lay off 6,000 people in his contact centre and replace them all in agents overnight, as he said. I think it's the learning curve that are still causing issues. Understanding the limits of AI and the exceptions. We still need humans for those exceptions, and there will always be those exceptions. There will always be there. So getting rid of everybody hastily going, yeah, we've saved all these people is probably a little bit over the top. So I think people need to spend more time understanding the limits for sure.
I think that's great.
Okay.
No, so just a quick one as well. We're also running a webinar on the 2nd of December. There's flyers on everyone's seats. So get signed up for that. It'd be good to see you on that. Obviously, thank you to Simon and Matthew for joining us. It's been really good. I hope everyone takes something from this. Thanks, guys.